everybody. Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity, and this episode we're bringing back a friend to this channel, and that is the blues great Janiva Magness. She has a new live album out, and we haven't talked to her since her last album, so it was a great time to catch up on things and find out the backstory to an amazing live blues record. If you love the blues, you're going to love Janiva if you haven't already discovered her. So please give this interview a listen. Check out the album. Check out the rest of her music. As always, I ask that you hit like if you're enjoying what you're hearing. And if you think you might like any of the other interviews that you may or may not have already heard on the Boomerocity YouTube channel and podcasts and other platforms, then please hit subscribe. It shouldn't be costing you anything extra, but it sure helps us out tremendously. Also, feel free to share these interviews with your friends and ask them to do the same. So without any further ado, here is my second of what I hope and kind of know will be many more interviews to come with blues great Janiva Magness. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. Good seeing you again, girl. How you been?
Thank you, Randy. It's really good to see you. I've been busy. I would say, uh, this is about the window of time where we start to go into hyperdrive.
Yeah.
Hyperdrive. Every second, every moment of every day is, chopped into little bits and has to be accounted for. So, but that's a blessing of having this life, I guess, in short, the life of an artist, the life of a musician, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so busy. I occasionally think maybe I should have a little bit of downtime. And then when I have downtime, the work is don't panic.
I know that feeling.
You could hear sirens going off in the back. So
I
I've
know.
been
I
good.
just I just came back from a vacation myself, and I to get ready for the vacation. Of course, I don't like things to be there to be a gap online for my work. So
Right.
I had to do like 3 weeks of work to cover for the one week because I had to do the week before, the week
Gotcha.
during, and be ready for the week after. So
Yeah.
but at least I got to come back and not have everything piled up like it used to be when I'd go on vacation in my corporate America career. So,
Right.
yeah, but
Precisely.
so
Yeah. And there's a lot, similarly, for me, I don't, I was going to make a joke and say vacation. What's that? Can you spell it for me? I'll look it up. Um, but, uh, what traveling for work, going on tour, which I'm about to do. Whatever the date is today, I'm about to leave soon.
yep.
And,
In 10 days, I think you said
that's
today's the
about
seventh.
right. That's
Yep.
about right. 17th. So, yeah, exactly 10 days, in fact. And we're hitting the East Coast, doing just a few shows and then going over to Europe, starting in Italy. And
Wow.
yeah, very grateful for that. Very happy about that. And but you come home to a large pile when that happens, and then the job is get as much done, dig through the pile as efficiently and quickly as possible before you have to do planes, trains, and automobiles again.
That
And
great
that,
movie.
yeah, right. Remember that? And that the touring in support of the new album is starting in 10 days through November,
Hmm.
with only 3 dates in the States. Everything else is Europe.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's exciting.
You'll come back not speaking English. You'll,
Maybe.
maybe. Well,
I,
you
I
mentioned
will
it.
come back blowing spit bubbles. I'll tell you that.
There you go. Um, I didn't have this down, but you mentioned Italy, and I remember quite a while back, my first 2 or 3 years of creating Boomerocity, I had
Mhm.
interviewed Dan Peake of America. He had passed away, and he had been trying to help this little Italian trio out over in Italy. And they reached out to me seeing if I could still help them, get in the right direction because that's what Dan was trying to do for them. And they made an interesting comment that there just wasn't a big, I'll put it in a big umbrella, rock and roll market there as far as for concerts, big venues, things like that. I'm curious, what is it like for you? And we're getting to your album, I promise, but this just kind of piqued my interest from a business perspective. What what are the venues like for blues artists such as yourselves over there? Is it very receptive? Are they good size? Are they intimate venues? What is it like for you over there?
It's an incredibly beautiful experience, first and foremost, because of the people and the reception by the people. They're so, uh, they're really into blues, traditional blues, contemporary blues, and everything in between. Blues, the roots and all the fruits. They're really into it. Um, and so that in and of itself makes it a beautiful experience to be a performance artist, playing music. And in terms of the venues, they're small, medium, and large. I've played a lot in Italy, but not in a long time. So we'll see in terms of what remains. But small venues, whether it's in a pub, I've played in a garden area of a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly. And I've played really big concerts, theaters, festivals. We're going over this time to play a festival in Sardinia, which I'm very excited about. That's one spot in Italy I haven't been because I've really literally been the north, south, the central. I've been all over Italy, and but not to Sardinia, which is of course an island off the coast,
Right.
um, on the way to Greece. You know, the pit stop on the way to Greece, and
Is there a
this will be a
Bucky's there?
festival. Hmm? No,
Is there a Bucky's there?
no, there's definitely not a Bucky's anywhere in sight. I'm, one of the things that part of my experience with Italy always has been that I can absolutely eat like a cow and I lose weight.
Oh, I need to move there.
It's magic. It's
Yep.
magic. I swear to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I I've only been to Italy once, as almost 40 years ago, back in 1989, in fact, and I was
Okay.
barely into it uh, in the Alps. Aosta, in fact, was where I was at, but
Okay.
I think I'm pronouncing that right. But had great spaghetti there. So,
Of course. Of course.
hey, I'm curious. Last time we talked was about your album Back for Me, and I
Right.
was curious how that album has done for you. I've heard you on radio on Sirius XM and all that. So
Yeah.
so I'm assuming the album has done well for you.
It's done well. That album did really well. I mean, I'm always grateful uh for the support from radio, XM, and blues DJs, all the grassroots. I mean, the American roots music, the blues community as a general broad stroke, the blues community is really beautiful in that way of being able to call people up, email people, text people, send a private message through some social platform and say, hey, new music coming. Um, I'm I have a lot of relationships with people, with DJs, with promoters, because I've just been unbelievably stubborn about not quitting this thing.
Hmm.
And so because the longevity, I've been in it so long that of course you're going to develop relationships, but Back for Me did well. I hope this album does, coming up, at least as well, maybe even better. We'll see what happens. We'll see how people uh receive it. We'll see how the listeners receive it. I think mostly my fans are really going to dig it, because I've had people for a long time asking me, come on, do a live album. Come on, do a live album with this band. This is your touring band. Do a live album. Come on, please. And I have not wanted to do that for a bunch of reasons, all of which I talk about in the liner notes, actually. Um, but in short, I wanted it to I wanted to be able to be sure that the goal was met. What's the goal? The goal is to capture the energy of the live experience, not just for the band, but for the audience, and to be able to feel that. And that requires a lot more than you would think to capture the performance, to truly get it. So I didn't want to have anything less than that. I didn't want to put out anything less than that. And the opportunity came to work with this guy who is legendary, Bob Clearmountain. And if the listeners don't know who he is, just hit the Google, or have your kids or grandkids hit the Google. And I couldn't say no to that in a live studio situation on a sound stage with an audience of like 150 people. I couldn't in good conscience say no to that. So we did it, and Bob got it. I think, and I'm hypercritical, that he actually captured it. He got it. He got the elusive, mystery bird. He captured it. I think my listeners, my fans, are going to be happy.
I think, and live albums are always tricky because you've got to juggle several balls. In my opinion, as a fan, I'm not a musician or an entertainer, but you've got to translate those great studio albums into great live performances, but yet not perfectly replicate them. You want to add to it. You want those guitar solos to, be bigger or different or whatever. I mean, Peter Frampton says he doesn't play the same solo the same, a solo the same way twice. And I'm sure it's the same way for, artists like you and your band and such. And then you got, if you're going to do a live album, you got to translate both of those onto a recording and not lose anything. And so that's a lot to tackle for all of you, not just you, but Clearmountain and the band and all that. So did you find that to be challenging?
It's a huge undertaking. You're absolutely right about that. And for me, the challenge, as is often the case, was it was everything before the actual first, what we call the downbeat. Everything before the downbeat. That's where the challenge was. That's where the challenge was. Was there a challenge in playing the songs in the performance? Not really. Not really, because of, I guess, the level of professionalism, the level of experience. My band is, we're close. We've played together for so long. There's a level of intimacy that just happens. It's one of the reasons I have been such a stalwart, kind of an ugly word, but such a stalwart about, I really appreciate the offer to come and use your band, but I'm not going to do that. I want to work with my guys. And in some ways, that's been detrimental to my career, because it ain't cheap. It's not an inexpensive proposition.
Right.
But there's so much magic that happens on the bandstand between us. There's a level of intimacy. I can absolutely rely on what is going to be given from this group of individuals, what they're going to give me, what they're going to give the audience, which is going to be 200% every time. And I know that. And that they understand the songs, that they know the songs, especially when it comes to my original material. You don't want someone that's up there that's less than comfortable, that is distracted by some other thing other than exactly what they're supposed to be doing in the moment, and to be fully immersed in the music, to give that to the audience, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost track of what the question was, but
No,
how's that sound?
Well, since this is a live album of your work and such, do you see this as maybe, or do you feel like this is you entering a new chapter of your career, and or how would you describe it? What that album means to you going forward?
Wow, man, I don't know. I always
Fair enough.
think, no, I mean, really, I don't. Going forward, I mean, as far forward as I've been able to think is, we're going to go on tour. Uh, I'm, we're going to play these shows. I know these guys are going to play the hell out of this music. Uh, and really hoping that people show up, because that's not a given anymore, man. You can't assume that the audience is going to actually be able to get there. Get the tickets, get the seats, whatever it is. I want to have some faith about that, certainly, but you know, that's kind of as far as I've been able to think. I know that between July and November, my tour schedule is really full, and I'm grateful for that. There's a bunch of shows, like I said, the majority, 97% of them are in Europe. And I'm not sure what happens after that. I think it's December. And you know what? That might sound, sorry about the noise. That
I
might
don't hear it.
sound wildly delusional. And it may be. I'm not sure what happens next. I'm not sure. I didn't think I was getting album number 18. Let me just tell you that. I didn't think I was getting 18 albums. I didn't think I was getting 15 albums.
No.
When, I mean, so, I remember my producer and I, Dave Darling, talking, I think when we hit like number 8, and he goes, "Hey, this is the 8th album with you." And I go, "Like, this is your 8th record?" And I was like, "What? Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah." So there's beauty in being in the moment, I suppose, and there is a certain amount of recklessness to it, isn't there?
No. Well, and to your point, going back to what you said about there's no guarantee of people showing up. Seems like lately there have been artists from various genres, well-known ones, big names,
Mm-hmm.
who have canceled not only shows but whole tours because of what they're now referring to as the blue dot phenomenon, of available seats and such. And and mostly they're bigger venues and such, and of course it's the big two or three who control most of those venues. And
Right.
I see both sides of the fence type of view of this, as far as, well, you've got those guys being greedy and squeezing everything they can out of a paying audience, and then
Bingo.
with the bigger acts, they see that, and there's a book called Ticket Master, 2 words, not the company, but 2 words, that came out about 15 years ago, that goes deep into that. And it's like, wow, it's just it's a bunch of alligators eating each other's tails. It seems like at that level, and of course that trickles down to the tier two and tier three artist spectrum there, and and plus I don't think everybody's gotten over the fear of COVID
Right.
after 4 or 5 years. And so I think you artists such as yourself are facing a very daunting psyche out there when it comes to getting the paying public out. And I don't envy you for that, but that makes it very challenging. Do you, but to that point, and going back to the album there, and as well as your similar stops on your upcoming tour,
Hmm.
how do smaller audiences affect your performance versus being in the bigger venues? Is it intimidating? Are you afraid they're going to see that booger in your nose, or all that kind of stuff? Or does it hit you the same no matter what?
Bro, let me tell you, I'm always afraid about that booger. That booger has haunted me. That booger haunts.
I've never asked that of an artist before.
That's all right. That booger haunts us all. Trust me. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah,
I'm there.
it is.
So.
But having said that, it is what you're saying is true. I find it accurate, in other words, about the whole thing with like the ticket master and all that is involved in that, and the infrastructure of that part of the business of music. And it is no question the business of music.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That has become this incredibly ugly, large, oversized monster that in fact is eating itself. And there is, to my point of view, there is beauty to that's fallen apart. It is continuing to fall apart. And I think that that's a good thing. I think people are tired. Human beings, the audience, the fans are tired of being squeezed. Now, just let me leave that there. So, and they're tired of being squeezed. And guess what? They realize they have a choice. Now they know they have a choice. They don't want to be squeezed. I don't want to have to sit in traffic for 2 hours to find parking, to walk a half a mile to get to my nosebleed seat, which is the only one I can afford, if I can even afford that. So
I hear you.
So fortunately, in blues, in American roots music, that's much less of a factor because we're dealing with more intimate settings. We're dealing with smaller venues. We're just not dealing with that. And so we're less affected by that, other than this one piece that I can see, which is that as those higher tier, larger venue things fall apart, a lot of the artists that are making their way through their lives and their releases and their tours in those venues drop down, which means things underneath it get squished. So we all, you know what I mean? It's a domino thing. We all kind of get squished by that. So where I used to be able to, get onto a bill that would be a 500 or an 800 seater, a theater indoors, those were harder to get because those other artists, like a Bonnie Raitt or someone similar, Tedeschi Trucks. Well, that's not a good example because Tedeschi Trucks is like an enigma. They just do what they want, when they want, where they want, and they've created a beautiful universe for themselves. And it's wonderful. I love that band, and I love seeing what they're doing, and I love the way they run their business. But it does affect us at that level, sort of the squishing down. So there are fewer venues. This is a problem, which means there's fewer gigs. There are fewer promoters. A lot of people have left. The festivals, we lost a lot of festivals during the pandemic. So I'm affected by that. The playing field has gotten smaller. Absolutely, in the States. I think less so in Europe. less so in Europe, from what I've been able to see. And yeah, I mean, I just don't, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that playing field. Don't get me wrong. I've been on tours where 18 to 25,000 seaters. I've played those shows, and it's an incredibly powerful experience to be on this huge stage with all this like lighting and the thing at that, and these massive crowds going, wow,
Mm-hmm.
you know, incredibly powerful experience. Um, and that was great. I don't imagine, I mean, I'd be happy to show up for that again if it were to happen, but I don't imagine that that's coming my way again. It could. Everything could change so wildly that I could say yes to something like that and get offered it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
how does my performance change from the stage is the size of a biscuit and there's 7 people out there to, the 18 to 20, 25,000? Um, Not really. Now I learned that. I had to learn that. I had to learn to not be affected by the uh how big or small, how big or intimate the audience is. I had to learn that early in my career, and I did. I'm grateful I learned that early on. But pretty much everybody works hard for their money and pays for their ticket, and I
Yep.
have a deep respect for that. I do not take that for granted. So if I'm on a small stage at an Italian restaurant um, outside of Venice, or in the Dolomites in the mountains, and or in the basement of a club in the Dolomites, that's absolutely jam packed like sardines, and we're playing a show and it's hotter than anything you think you could ever survive down there, and you still do the show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, those people deserve the same show as 18 to 20, 25,000. Let me tell you. And my intention is always to deliver that
Yeah.
as best as I can.
Well, I'm hoping that fans, and honestly, I have to admit that until I started interviewing people and
Mm.
hearing what goes on when the mic's turned off, I didn't think of things of like, yeah, please tour, but, if there's 2, 3, 4 days between shows, you, the headliner, are paying the road crew and the band, and no
Everything.
matter how big or how small the act is, the expenses don't stop. If nothing else, the hotel rooms, the food, what are you going to do to occupy time between those things? And now today, and I will not get political, but I think the current and the last president did a lot of damage to our economy with regards to inflation and supply chain. And
Mm,
I give both parties the blame on it. I'm not,
mm,
I'm being equal to who lit those inflation fires, in my opinion. I'm a
mm,
finance major, so I like to think I have some basis to base that opinion on. But when I turn around and put the microscope to the concert business, I look at it and say, all right, yeah, the fan, me, Joe fan, has to think, all right, well, I want to see all these artists, but I can only afford one show based on current ticket pricing,
yep.
parking, going to eat nearby before the show, all
Right.
that kind of stuff. I mean,
Right.
before you know it, you got a lot of money spent, even if you're buying the tickets way ahead of time. But then you turn around and you look at the artists, and you guys are facing similar financial pressures. And as you mentioned a minute ago, sometimes you don't know until a day or two before the scheduled gig if it's still going to go on or not. You know, sometimes I've seen them cancel because of low ticket sales. Whether and oftentimes it's the promoter. Now, from the promoter position, I interviewed Danny Zelisko a few years ago about his book. He starts talking about some of the big concerts he does and how he has to pay millions up front if he's going to do an arena show. They've got their neck out. Marquee person gets, their money up front, and then it's a mad dash to try to get those tickets sold, And so there's not a single villain or victim in this. It's everybody needs from a fan perspective, needs to look and say, all right, if we were in their shoes, what would we wish? And then let's act accordingly.
Right.
Yeah.
So and I understand completely what you're saying. And in my field, my genre, the arena that I do swim in, still, the canceled concerts are fewer, a lot less than what we see in terms of, we're just not selling enough tickets. That's a lot less quite frankly, in blues, whether it's contemporary, traditional, whatever. It's a lot fewer. I don't know if that's because the profit margin, is smaller. It might be. So when you compare them, there's less at risk. There's not less at risk for the artist, not for me. I'm out there traveling from hell to breakfast so we can get to you and do our job. And, it's a different arena in that sense. At the same time, last week I saw a post from my friend Sugar Ray Rayford, who I'm sure you know, and he was stuck. Actually, two of his band members were stuck at some airport somewhere in Austria, and they couldn't get out. They couldn't make the sold out show.
Oh, man.
They couldn't make the sold out show. But the frequency of that is a lot. It's like this compared to what we see, and I'll loosely refer to it as headline news. It's a lot less because I don't know, are blues musicians tougher? Are we more like what the mail carriers used to be, the post office? Come rain, come sleet, come snow, come wind, we're going to be there. We're going to get there. We're going to do the show. We're going to deliver the mail. And I think that that's true. We are a tough breed, and it is not for the faint of heart. Trust me. And all of those expenses you talked about, 100% right.
Yeah.
Getting housing, hotel rooms, meals, all of it, vehicle rentals, plane tickets, train tickets, all of it falls on the artist. It's the expense of the artist. It is the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And the cost of doing business has gone straight through the roof. So it is more challenging that way. Am I going to make money on this summer touring? I don't know. That remains to be seen. Yeah. I honestly don't know. Am I people say if you're going to be a touring artist, you're just out of your mind. And that's not wrong. It's not wrong. I don't want to be in debt, but we often carry a heavy debt load in order to do this thing that we do.
Yeah. It's
True.
The nature of the beast.
And not doing music, not being fully immersed in the music itself, is a dangerous proposition for me.
Yeah.
I need this thing. I need the music. I need to be deeply embedded in it like a tick. And I am.
Well, to the point of those kinds of things that I again, that's the reason why, one of the many reasons I do what I do. I do feel that fans really don't have a clue sometimes. Let me rephrase that. I don't think us fans, because I don't want to sound like I know it and they don't. I'm learning something all the time of what you guys have to go through. talking about missed flights and such, I remember stories over the last couple of years. Walter Trout, Eric Gales, and both of them while they were in Europe, you know, either canceled flights, missed flights, lost. When I say luggage, I'm talking like luggage slash gear. And
Guitars,
those guys
yeah.
don't play with cheap guitars, you know. So I mean, there's a lot we don't see from our cheap seats to the stage or what goes on backstage, you know.
Yep. I
But
remember, I have a memory of that. In fact, flying from, I live in Los Angeles, guilty as charged, and flying from LA, trying to get to Fort Lauderdale to play a festival at the time that I was headlining. And it was during the window of time when I was fooling around with cigar box guitars.
mm-hmm.
Um, and this is it's not even a full-size guitar. It's like a little chunk of wood that is glued to
In the
another
neck.
chunk of wood, and there's some three strings on it, and that's it. You know what I mean? It's really the small thing. It doesn't weigh 10 pounds. I've got it on my shoulder. The gate agent on American Airlines, nope, you can't take it on. I'm like, I made sure I bought the right class of fare, the more expensive class of fare, so I wouldn't get hassled. Sure enough, I get hassled. I'm going to gate check it for you. Don't worry. This
Oh
was
no.
this was a nonstop flight, and into Fort Lauderdale from LA. At the time, she was adamant she was really being a jerk, is what she was doing. And she had the authority to do it. Took the guitar from me. I said, please. And she was like, absolutely, absolutely. And I said a prayer and got on a plane. And I got to Fort Lauderdale and no cigar box guitar. And the next day, no cigar box guitar and American Airlines on a loop. And it was the full on nightmare. And I put a message out on social media. I was pretty upset. And within a matter of less than 24 hours, delivered via FedEx, God bless FedEx, to my hotel room door was another cigar box guitar from a dear friend who's a cigar box maker in Memphis. And he was like, this one's on me, babe, go. And he sent me another cigar box guitar so that I could do the show. The next day, 3 days later, knock on the door, hotel room, American Airlines sent my cigar box guitar and it was smashed.
Oh.
So, that's not an uncommon story. And I ain't no Walter Trout or Eric Gales.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So,
I
that's
think
part of the
Joe, your
reality.
friend Joe, your friend Joe Bonamassa has told a story or two.
Absolutely.
And Lord only knows what he travels with, right? So
He travels with a lot, and he's got a lot more. Joe's done well, and he's got a lot more control over his situation.
yeah,
It seems like in all aspects, as far as I can tell,
yeah,
to be able to not be subjected to that again.
right, right. I want to get a couple more things asked of you back to the album, and it has to do with with Bob Clearmountain. Did what you kind of touched on it earlier? What did Bob bring to this project that made it especially special for you?
Wow, Clearmountain's
Besides working with him, just the privilege of working with him.
Yeah, he's a legend. He's a legend. So there was all of that. It was hard for me to not go fangirl on him
Mm-hmm.
and to not be swept away by those emotions. To, come on, Janiva. And I had to reel it back in, uh, to bring my focus back to where I needed it to be, which was in the moment, in the songs, with the audience. What was so special about doing that show? Part of it is the special. I feel honored to be able to make records. I really do. I still do. It's not a given in this gray matter up here. In my mind, it is not a given that I'm going to get to make another record. So when you asked me earlier about like, well, what's next? Get album number 19, or is it album number 19 implied there? I don't know, man. But I do feel a deep honor to be able to make records. And so that was present. That is always present. A certain level of nervousness, partly because it's Bob Clearmountain. And again, it's like, reel it in, reel it in. And I'm really, there's a certain amount of magic. There's a certain amount of mystery for me always when I'm recording. I want to talk about what's happening, but I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to bugger up the mystery. I don't want to, I think the muse as an entity, and go ahead and judge me because somebody will. I think the muse as an entity is real. I think that energy is real, of the muse, of the creative spirit, if you will. And I don't want to get in her way. So the work often is that, and making sure that my own personal challenges, my own insecurities, my own worries, was that good enough? That didn't sound right. Let's do it again. Is in check. And that I am working with people that I can trust enough to tell me the truth. Isn't that a privilege to work with people that you trust to tell
Yes,
you
it
the
is.
truth?
Yep.
Because everybody don't do that anymore. People
That's
don't do
right.
that. They're like, oh yeah, that was great. Oh yeah, that was great. Guess what? That was not great. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
You know, those are the things that are on my mind with it. I'm grateful to Blue Lawn for presenting the offer to record with Bob Clearmountain, and here's what that went like. Hey, so we thought that maybe you might be interested in doing this. We're doing some recording with Bob Clearmountain. I was like, what? Wait, what? Yeah, we're doing live recordings and then releasing them to vinyl and CD. Are you interested in that? Would you like to do that? And I was like, hell yeah, I would love to do that. Um, you know, and literally that conversation went on for like a year before the actual recording occurred. And what happened, I mean, I kind of got tired of us like, yeah, I would like to do it. When do you think we might do it? Well, we'll get back to you. And then like crickets. And then one day the phone, and hey, that Clearmountain project. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you guys are still doing it. And yeah, we'd like to know, we realize it's February. Would you like to record in March? I was like, actually, yes, I would. I'm not going to say no to this. Let me make a few phone calls, make sure everybody's got a clear window. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da. Here's the, and boom, boom, boom. And then that happened really fast when it finally happened.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did he capture anything in that performance that surprised even you?
I think so. Yeah. I'm floating through the experience, the difference in the experience of performance, of listening back to rough mixes and then final mixes, and how it made me feel. I don't automatically go to that was great. Like I don't stand in the bathroom, look in the mirror and go, you're great. You're a badass. You really are. I just admit it. I don't do that. I've never done that. I've never been that person. Um, and so I don't come to the party expecting greatness from myself. But I have to say, I was really happy to listen back and to be moved by what I was hearing. Not just my own voice, but everyone, and then especially my own voice, to have been moved by that. I cannot listen to this album. I don't want to give it away because I want people to get the record. I cannot listen to it without being deeply moved at certain points with certain songs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a surprise to me. And how did he? I think Bob Clearmountain has the most delicate, the finest net that I've ever seen in a live situation. I'm talking like get the visual of a butterfly net now, and it is the finest whisper, so that it's like you don't even know it's there. You don't even know he's caught that. And he is legendary. He is highly accomplished in his career. He's a heavy, heavy hitter, one of the top cats. Nicest guy, nicest, sweetest, kind of shy, not real, forward in his presence. Like I'm forward in my presence, aren't I? I'm kind of loud. I'm, blah, blah. I'll pretty much say what's on my mind. Filter seems to be gone these days. If I think it, I'm going to say it. Clearmountain is like a very humble and clearly kind, very attentive individual. Mm-hmm. What a beautiful spirit he is, yeah.
What song, and this will be my last question for you before we sign off, but what song would you point to as the gateway drug or the calling card, if you will, of the whole album, especially, and maybe it's two songs, one for the fans and one for somebody who inexplicably has not heard of you before? What would be the calling cards in those situations?
They're all really strong. I mean, really strong. It's 10 songs, by the way, for the listeners, 10 tracks. Right. The first single that we released was Slipped, Tripped, and Fell in Love. And the reason that that was the first song that came out is because it is impossible to listen to without like, you got, I'll bet you, even in the privacy, Randy, of your own little space there, I bet you were going,
you were peeking. That's not
I was
right
spying.
at all.
I'm a spy. And that's a powerful song. It is powerful. And it is I believe that it is indicative of the power that was captured and that we're presenting on this record. Emotionally, there's 3 ballads. There's 3 super powerful ballads. And you can kind of pick any one of them. The Things Left Undone, which is my cover of a Paul Thorne song that I had recorded several records ago, is there. And it's listed as track number 10. And the reason that it's listed as track number 10 is because at the end of the song, the silence was deafening. And the silence was deafening because people were crying in the audience and they didn't know what to do. They were like so in the moment, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
no one was breathing. And then when I realized that, took me a few seconds to realize that, I leaned into the mic and I went, that's it. So that they would know that the song was over. And now, traditionally speaking, you could applaud if you felt,
that applaud sign.
Yeah, if you felt inclined to do so. And then, of course, everyone's laughing and then they're applauding. And then that and we listed that as track number 10 because it just the album has to end that way. It just has to end that way.
Yeah.
But the intimacy and the companionship between the band and the audience, so I'd say maybe that one, unless I said one of the other ballads, but you're gonna just have to get the record to find out.
There you go. And that's what I want fans to do, or people that like just taking the swan dive into something new that they haven't heard before and pick it up for their own library. But
really appreciate that, man.
Well, girl, I hope we don't go as long as we did this time to speak again. And even more so, I hope we get into the same airspace as each other so we can hug each other's neck and I can get you to sign an album for me and all that kind of thing. I have two places I do these things at, and on one of them, the main one, I have signed records all around the ceiling, on the wall up against the ceiling, and I want to put one of yours up there. So
thank you. I would love that.
My Hall of Fame, if you will. So
I would love that.
Please stay safe, please stay healthy, and I hope to see you down the road soon.
Send me a link. I'll get this out on my socials. I really appreciate it, Randy. Really appreciate the support. And we'll see you.
I certainly will.
I hope, and the fans out there.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye. This has been another fun-filled episode of Boomerocity with your host and producer, Randy Patterson. The theme song for Boomerocity is Roll the Dice and is recorded and used by permission from Quentin Hope. Quentin is spelled Quinten, and Hope is H-O-P as in Paul, E. And you can find out more about Quentin Hope and his music at quintenhope.com. Post-production is done by Cardinal Sins Productions. The Boomerocity name, logo, and content is copyright protected. Segments may only be used with written permission by Boomerocity and/or its assignees. Inquiries should be directed to input@boomerocity.com. Copyright 2026.